Welcome. I'll call the Development Review Board meeting on February 14th, 2024 to order. I'll go over the agenda, the rules of procedure, interested party rules, and swear people in. We have two items of business. We have an old business, a continuation of previous hearings on an appeal to the DRB by KCS LLCC of a zoning administrator's determination for property located at 20 Morgan Road in the low density residential district. And then we have to approve minutes from January 24th. We'll then adjourn the public meeting and go into a deliberative session. I will go through this. These proceedings will be conducted in an orderly manner consistent with the DRB's rules of procedure. Written copies of the rules of procedure are available, but we'll walk you through the process. First item, has there been any ex parte communication or any conflict of interest from board members on this item? No. Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to read the interested party persons rule. Interested persons are the applicant, or if the applicant does not own the property, the person owning title to the property. Secondly, a person owning or occupying property in the immediate neighborhood of a property that is the subject of the zoning decision or act, who can then demonstrate a physical or environmental impact on the person's interest under the criteria reviewed, and who alleges that the decision or act, if confirmed, will violate the municipal plan or bylaw. Then any 10 persons, either voters or landowners, who by signed petition to the DRB allege that the decision or act, if confirmed, will violate the municipal plan or bylaw. The petitioners must designate one person to serve as representative. And why is this important? Many members of the public may be interested in a zoning permit application, but only statutorily defined interested persons may appeal a decision of a zoning officer or DRB. If an interested person fails to make a timely appeal, they are bound by the officer's or DRB's decision or act. Only those interested persons who have participated in a DRB proceeding may appeal a decision re-entered in that proceeding in environmental court. Pursuant to state statute, participation consists of offering through oral or written testimony, evidence, or a statement of concern related to the subject of the proceeding. If there were to be an appeal of the work we do tonight, the DRB does not determine who is an interested person. That is part of the appeal process, but we do need to establish who participated in the hearing. So we ask you two things. Please sign in the sign-in sheets, or if you're participating by video, provide your contact information in the meeting chat or by email to the zoning administrator, Chris. Secondly, when you speak in the hearing, please tell us your name loud and clear so that we can record it. Thank you for your cooperation. This is a quasi-judicial hearing, so all those who intend to speak must be sworn in. I will read the oath. Those who are here, please say I do. Those participating remotely are assumed to be sworn in. So I will now say the oath. I hereby swear that the evidence I give and the cause under consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth, under the pains and penalties of perjury.
I do.
Okay, thank you very much. So who's going to be speaking?
Yes, so good evening. Hi, my name's Tom Dowd. I'm an agent of KCS LLC as well as Jim Carroll. Is there any questions first before I just start off? Do you have any questions for us?
Why don't we have Chris just give us a little intro to the issue we're about to talk about.
So this is a project property is 20 Morgan Road. It has basically history going back to 2016, where the applicant applied for a project that was denied by the DRB. And that project was appealed to the environmental court, where it went to a mediation, where a stipulation agreement was agreed to between the parties and signed, which allowed the project to go forward. The applicant pulled permits. I'd have to look at the exact date, but it was probably 2017, 2018. Nothing happened with regards to those permits. There's a 1-year window. So those things lapsed. the stipulation agreement still has standing, move forward. The applicant pulled permits in the spring of 2023 to build the project per the stipulation agreement. They came they communicated with the zoning office that they wanted to amend the stipulation agreement. Legally, that's not allowed. They were informed that they could submit a new application. And that basically that application would have to be substantially different than their original application because that application was denied. We went through a process, the zoning office and the applicant back and forth. They appeared to be ready to submit an application. They basically came in and they submitted, via email that they were going to submit an application to amend. I reviewed it, made a determination that I couldn't accept it because it wasn't a new application as they were told. I wrote a determination to that effect. And then they appealed that determination. Originally, we were going to hear it in November. And then we've had subsequent sort of delays and extensions to this point in time. There really hasn't been any new information provided from the applicant on the appeal. There hasn't really been any new information generated from the zoning office dealing with this in that time period. So what's in front of you is, did I act properly in my determination not to accept an amended application to an old application that was tied to a stipulation agreement?
Let me just clarify. So the application to amend was to amend an application.
They wanted to amend the stipulation agreement, which was a court order saying this is how you're going to do the project. And all the parties agreed that this is how the project was going to be done. That is not open for amending because it's a court order. And they basically were informed of that and said they were more than welcome to submit a new application. That should be different than the original application because the original application was denied. And the reason for that is if the application is denied, it needs to be substantially different because you don't want to, the board doesn't have to continue to rehear an application that was denied if they change curb cut location or landscaping or something, minor. They didn't choose to do that. They chose to want to request an amendment of the stipulation agreement. So now I said we can't do that.
Okay. Ready to go forward? Okay. So thanks, Tom. Go ahead.
Okay,
So if I may, I think the
Yes, yes.
important thing is for you to tell us what it is that you want to do differently. Rather than go through the whole
That's
process.
not part of it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Then
no,
never mind.
what their point is that I did something wrong.
Okay,
And they can say what I procedurally did wrong. And you can sort of say, either I acted right or I acted wrong, and either you uphold the determination or you basically overturn the determination. And if you did overturn the determination, then it'd probably be the allowance for them to submit under the path that they wanted to. So that's what you're really here to hear. It's not a new application or any one of those things.
and to answer that question, yes, we are here, we have things to if we get to that point, that we will share with you what we are trying to amend, what we are trying to make improvements to the existing.
but as Chris pointed out, that I was incorrect, that's not the question.
That's not the question, but to answer your question, yes,
On the
we are ready to that if we get to that point in time. Okay, so we are fully prepared to share that information when the time is available.
I do want to just say that the way Chris described it, I do think that there's a material misunderstanding. And Tom will get into this, but the material misunderstanding is that the application that was presented was a new application to amend. And it gets confusing Is there a new application? Yes, there is. What is the new application? The new application is to amend A, B, C, and D. And the way Chris described it, it was not attempting to amend something that was not under his purview or the DRB's purview. It was to amend the existing permits and Mylar. And with that, I'll let Tom go.
Okay, so why we're here
So
tonight,
let's just be clear about this. So you were trying to, what would you say you were trying to, your request was to amend
there are-
what?
There are three.
here,
Okay.
I can kind of share with
I'll let Tom.
So your question is what we are here trying to amend?
Yeah.
First, in our narrative, in our ask, we never asked to amend a stipulated final agreement through the zoning administrator's office,
Okay,
right? Currently, what we're here right now in front of you folks tonight for an appeal, right now we have 3 zoning permits which are non-appealable and they're partly built. So we have 3 current building approved permits. We have an existing PUD recorded Mylar in the town records, and it's an existing PUD. So our ask through the zoning administrator's office, once again, was never to amend the stipulated final agreement. That's not what we're asking for, and that's why we're not asking the 4 of you to make determinations on that. We're asking you, we want to amend. We have an application to amend an existing PUD that's recorded. How that PUD got recorded and it exists today, that's not why we're here, and that's not why you're going to make a judgment if the zoning administrator's office refusal to accept a complete application to amend an existing PUD subdivision. That's why we're here. And that's why we're gonna have discussions, why we have a different opinion than the zoning administrators. So once again, you're not here to make any judgment on the stipulated final agreement. That was never our ask. And how it got recorded in the town records is irrelevant at this point, okay? Several members heard this back in 2016, 2017. It got appealed, it went to the environmental court. It was appealed with a de novo appeal, which means the court doesn't look at anything else. They start de novo appeal. Just means in the Latin term, they start from the beginning and they look at it.
First fact.
First fact, whatever was said, anything else. And through that de novo appeal came out some language. And it's a very short language that pertains to this. So any and all prior or contemporaneous promises, representation, agreement or understandings, whether written or oral, between the parties related to the subject matter of this agreement are expressly merged herein and superseded and terminated hereby. So all of this white noise that we hear, oh, you had a denied DRB application and all of that, that was terminated. All of that is no longer relevant. So clouding a judgment with that past practice doesn't mean anymore. The court, the superior court, the judge endorsed this language. Now, this happens to come right out of the stipulated final agreement. So I think why we're here today, you need to just base it on the facts. Is it an existing PUD? Yes. Do we have 3 fully executed building permits? Yes. And this is what we are seeking to amend, to make improvements. And these improvements are based on the February 2022 land development regulations. Most importantly, because this board has to make decisions based on conditions of law. And that's why we're here. And when we have this application and you get to finally see the application, you can make reference to that. And we'll also make reference to the housing resolution that the select board is wishing for more workforce housing. But we'll get into that when the time is relevant.
So you were, let me just get this clear. So you were requesting an application, a new application?
In application, yes, it was.
A new application that you felt was significantly different than the previous application?
Yes. And we first worked with the zoning administrator. First, we started with the select board. The select board just kindly said, okay, we want, the town council is advised, we need you to work through the zoning administrator's office, which we did, okay? You didn't want to hear any of the other stipulated final stuff? No. That was the direction and the path we took, okay? We worked effortlessly working on submitting. So we submitted an application. We tried to use our existing documents and just say, hey, we want to tweak these, right? Because we all know every time you hire an engineer, it's a $10,000 bill, right? So we did that. I think we tried to submit this application to amend 3 times. And finally, the 4th time, all of the laundry list that myself and the zoning administrator had been working on was complete. It was a complete application by all the requirements. It was an 8-week process. At the 7th week, I met with the zoning administrator and the town administrator here in this room. We discussed the finalization, how we've met all the changes that are substantial, all of the statutes that say that you meet these certain tests. All of those things were complete. At that 7-week mark, 2 days later, I got an email saying, oh, I forgot to tell you at that meeting, we're going to switch gears, switch directions. You can no longer use that amendment. It has to be a new application for a new PUD. Substantially different. And we're like, no, this is an existing halfway built project. This is not a new project. And I have all of the emails and all of the paperwork that show how myself and the zoning administrator worked on the amendment process. The zoning administrator, we sat in his office, he actually filled out the paperwork and gave me a laundry list to go home and take care of. It's in his handwriting, the application that checked off amendment, not new. So I'm not gonna dive into that anymore. But what we're asking, we're formally requesting that the DRB remand this matter to the zoning administrator so that a zoning permit amendment application can be reviewed for completeness and processed back to the DRB at a future hearing warrant for the purpose which are amendments to the 2023 permits.
Permits.
Correct. So that's what our ask is, that we have the opportunity so the DRB can see our application and not be blocked.
So you said you were working on amending the application. What happened to change it to a new application that was needed? And
Is that a
so
question for me or for them?
for you, was there something that was found that,
No. Basically, if you're referring to when he said, oh, I forgot or whatever, that comment, that basically Tom would come in, very quickly, we had very few times where we had scheduled meetings. And we probably had a conversation. I said, this is the process you would need to go through. And then looking at it, I was like, oh, this needs to be a new application because of its denial back in 2016, 17. And the stipulation agreement. We've got emails and all that stuff. If their ask is for it to be remanded to the zoning office, maybe the easiest course is, because otherwise you're gonna have this back and forth, he said, she said stuff, which some of the things that Thomas held out, I don't agree with. I mean, some of them are cherry picked, like maybe some of mine are cherry picked in their view. That's fine. If it's remanded back, they can submit an application. I will look at the application. I will confer with the town council. It'll go to the board. We'll make our presentations. They'll make their request. And we'll basically, my office will say, this is how it's reviewed or not reviewed or whatever it may be. And then basically it allows you to look at it. And from that standpoint, as opposed to just a procedural issue that's right now. They chose not to submit a new application. And basically, the plot that he's referencing is tied to the stipulation agreement. So you can't separate those things. It's all part of the whole package. It's in the stipulation agreement. So it's amending the stipulation agreement. So I don't think that gets them that bite at the apple. But you're the board and you can, their ask is basically is for an application to be put in front of you. And then that application can be reviewed and deemed appropriate or not appropriate.
I'm sorry, that's not what I heard was that you didn't want to change the agreement, you just wanted to change the zoning permit.
No,
Correct.
they want to amend the plot, he said.
I want to amend the existing permits that we have in hand.
Permits.
Permits, we have 3 permits.
The permits you pulled in the spring of 2023.
Yes, and the buildings are partially built.
So a zoning permit, you don't traditionally amend, and the zoning permit was issued per the stipulation agreement. So if you're amending zoning permits, it probably all still ties back to the stipulation agreement. So it's this sort of lack of,
Doesn't it depend on me? You can amend a zoning permit so long as it's consistent with the stipulation agreement. I mean, you did it. We had permits pulled in 2017, and then we had new permits in 2023, all of which were under the stipulation agreement.
right, and those permits and the original permits expired because there's a years where they need to commence construction, and that did not occur. So those permits faded.
So he can.
So he pulls new permits based on this,
He can pull new permits, right? So he can always pull new permits, right?
based on the stipulation agreement.
Yeah. So long as he can pull new permits, as long as they're consistent with the stipulation agreement, right?
And he's pulled the 3 permits that are available per the stipulation agreement.
If I,
Part of the stipulation agreement was a duplex that they built was perpetually affordable. One of the issues that they want to change is they don't want to do the perpetually affordable unit. That was the sort of.
Is that in the zoning permit?
That's in the stipulation agreement.
That's it. I know, but is it in the zoning permit? Is it in the zoning permit?
It designates which unit is the perpetually affordable, so essentially, yes.
Okay.
And that was sort of the linchpin of the agreement for the stipulation agreement being signed and forwarded. This never went to court. The judge never heard this. This never got heard in open court. This was, can you go to mediation and see if we can mediate it before we get to court? And that's what we did. And we spent a long day and we had an agreement between the parties that was signed in court, basically, that was drafted, reviewed, and then the court accepted. So
I guess. Why can't they come in and ask for a new zoning permit consistent with the stipulation?
they have pulled all the zoning permits from the stipulation agreement. So the zoning permits follow stipulation agreement. They want to do something that's different, that's outside the stipulation agreement, so I can't do that.
Okay, so the request, the change that they are requesting to the zoning permit is outside the stipulation agreement.
Well, they haven't come in, you're getting off on a different tangent because we weren't talking zoning permits. What they want to do is they want to amend basically the project. They're calling it the plat, but they're amending the project. That is tied to the stipulation agreement, which we don't have that affordability. They can supply a new application that we were ready to do, to put it in front of you guys, and they basically came back and Tom, on September 25th said, we're requesting to amend the August 10th, 2017 plat report in the glide. And I emailed them prior to that, as a follow-up saying, you know, you're not submitting a new application, you're now requesting to amend the original. They basically sent back confirmation that they wanted to amend the original. So I wasn't able to accept that. And that's what the determination was done. That being said, their ask is to be able to put an application in front of you. Maybe that's the best course, put an application in front of you. If you can hear it, then you can hear it on its merits. And you'll make a determination one way or another. If you can't hear it, there'll be legal reasons why you can or shouldn't hear it. And then you can make, you know, you can make your judgment call as that would be. And I think that's probably the fairest option to the applicant, because that's what their ask is. And if I'm correct, then it should be an easy decision. If I'm incorrect, we'll figure out, we'll learn why I'm incorrect, and you'll end up hearing a project that should go forward.
So is that acceptable?
Well, I'll just like to clarify one thing. Early in the process, I did email asking, yes, is there affordability? Is there what can be done here? That was soon abandoned. Never talked about it again in an email. It was never put in any, it was not in the narrative that we submitted with our complete application. The affordability was never discussed or asked.
Okay, I think there's an ask that,
But let me just finish.
Put us
one
in the
thing.
stipulation agreement.
We never asked to change the stipulation, anything. All we're doing, we're asking based on one additional thing. If you look on the recorded plat, Mylar, or project, whatever we want to call it, even the notes right here that we have. Can we pull up this slide?
Yeah.
That would be great. And I'll show you an important aspect.
Let me. Is that fine, Tom?
Well, it doesn't really, I guess we can't really see the notes. But
What notes, what notes?
what we're looking at right here,
Okay, Tom?
this is, okay. It's a note that was signed.
Screen sharing if you want it to be screen sharing.
Yeah, I'm getting ready to do that, Aaron. So is this fine, Tom?
That one is not the same one that you
I see
have.
you're referencing just like.
Sure, this is your notes. This is your work notes.
Good. All right, I think I know which one that is.
Okay.
Bear with me, Aaron. We'll get it shared in a second.
So basically it's saying, right here, there's a note that's very difficult to read. But it was part of the agreement and it's in the land records. The select board signed on behalf of the DRB because they had jurisdiction to do it within the courts. And that one note there, it says subject to future development rights. And that's why we're here, because new developments have materialized in the 2022 LDRs. So we're not referencing, we're not trying to change that stipulated
So,
file.
Interesting with that is because, well, I don't, never mind, that'll just confuse things.
if I could just add that the select board as a part of the de novo proceedings signed the Mylar as the Jericho Development Review Board. So the recorded Mylar, which is in effect related to what Tom's talking about, we can all get very confused, but the Mylar We have 3 building permits and we have the Mylar. The Mylar is the approved project. So the ask is to present, and this is where it gets really confusing, a new application. It is a new application to amend the 3 building permits and the recorded Mylar, not the stipulated agreement under the current land development regulations. That is what the ask is. So there's 3 zoning permits that need amendment.
But my understanding is the Mylar and the zoning permits are as per the stipulation agreement.
That's correct.
The stipulation agreement allowed the select board to act as the DRB in its authority.
I understand
Sign
that.
it and record. So,
I understand that,
right,
but this was in conjunction with the stipulation agreement. And what I'm hearing is that you want to amend that, which to me means amending the stipulation agreement.
No, the
Which is beyond the scope.
stipulation agreement can, on its face, be amended by mutual agreement of the parties. And I think you have the stipulation agreement in your capacities tonight. It can be amended by mutual agreement because it is a contract. Okay. 2, either of the parties can say that the other party is in violation of the permit, and they can ask to go back to mediation. If the mediation fails, then it can go back to the court. That is not what's being asked. The select board said, go forward with what you have, which is a recorded Mylar that is signed by the select board acting as the Jericho Development Review Board that produced 3 permits, all under another set of land development regulations. So this is no different than the project that JD did with the 9 units. It was an existing recorded Mylar. And the ask was to amend that final document and to change. Or the project that's on Plains Road, where they had certain configurations and they came in to amend it. From a legal perspective, there is no difference between our project and either of those 2 other projects. As it applies, the select board has delegated this to the Development Review Board and to Chris, and that's why we're here. We want to bring a new application that says on it, amendment, and bring forth a complete application for you to hear.
What is significantly different than what we heard before?
There's a
I don't
lot,
think you want
there's,
to get into that until you've seen the application, because this is getting,
Is it significantly different than what we've heard before?
you don't have anything in front of you, so I don't think.
I'm just gonna ask him,
we discussed meeting the Stowe Highland test, and we mutually came to an agreement with narrative, supportive documents, technical drawings to meet that test. So we had moved past,
Who did you mutually agree with?
you
No, we never agreed. Tom.
have an
Tom, we
agreement.
never agreed. Yeah, that's a bad misstatement on your part.
Okay, well,
What you were told was that you could submit an application and they would be the judge of it, not me. That's what you were
okay,
told.
between the 2 of us, it meant that we can complete the application then.
I gave you a
Sorry if I
path
most-
forward, yes.
Yes, so yes, we scratched that surface, so it's significant. The land use regulations are significantly different now. But that's not That's, like Chris said, I agree with him. That's not why we're here tonight. I know you're eager, we're eager to get a path forward that we can come to a mutual understanding of how we can
But
move
it
this
seems to
project
me that a
forward.
path forward is to submit the new application and we will.
But this is not a new PUD
Well,
subdivision.
just let Phil finish.
Sure, okay.
That
to put it before us.
we submitted a new application and we got hung up on these semantics. That's why we're here. So if we can come to an agreement as to what it is that can go through the filter and arrive in front of you, then I think we've achieved our objective.
Well, I think Chris
I-
has just said that,
We can deal with the semantics all we like, because sometimes that's what we do a lot of. And so with that in mind, I think, because what you have in front of you here is an appeal of a decision I made. So I would think, and I don't know if you want to, my curiosity would be is you need to make a ruling on that some way, shape or form.
right,
And what that ruling is, I guess we'll discuss and figure that out. As I've said, maybe the best path forward is for them to submit what they're calling a new application. It will get reviewed, it will get vetted, you will receive my take on it. They will give you your take on it. You'll have to make a decision. Is it substantially different? Is it a new application? Is it these things? And then you'll have to render a decision on that application.
to me, that seems the cleanest way of doing things.
sorry?
That to me seems the cleanest way of doing things. Otherwise, tonight, we're gonna be talking past each other all night.
No, we just, this is why we're here. We want to find a path. And if there is a path, yes, we'd like to take that path.
And we would prefer to work this through the Development Review Board. And all we need to do is to have an application that is deemed complete, that is accepted and passed through to you. We understand that the changes are not subject to the authority of the zoning administrator. They are subject to the authority of the Development Review Board. But if we can't get to you to have that conversation, which is
Well-
where we've been, and that's where we want to get to,
But you can if you submit a new application.
which we did. We submitted a new application. The
You're-
difference is that it had a box checked on it that said amend.
Which to me, those are two different, new and amendment are two different
No,
things.
it's a new application. And on the application form, it says, is this an amendment? That's the whole issue right there, Chris. I have the form, if you want to give me the time to dig it out.
So what are the complications that we could possibly run into if it was a new application? Do what we have approved already, does that go away?
No,
So it could be a distinction without relevance.
How about
If it's
does the
a-
stipulation
if-
agreement go away with the new application?
no, if it's a new application, then some of it will not be the same, right? And that's de novo. The things that are the same, the things that have not been changed, we're not going to change our minds on afterwards. But the things that are new, we get the opportunity to review.
What you're gonna do is they'll submit what they're gonna call a new application, right? And that application will get reviewed and there'll be comments to it. And you'll have to go through whatever sort of view or tests or determination, okay, is it a new application? And if it is, then we're hearing it under this provision. If it's not a new application because of these reasons, then you'll make a decision on that. But we can't get there until something's been submitted. And basically, it appeared that we were heading in that direction. We had conversations. September 25th, I was informed that they wanted to amend. I said, please confirm that's what you want to do now. It's not going to be an application. And they confirmed that they wanted to amend. And so I made the determination I did based on that. And I did not accept the application at that point in time. That being said, going back, I think probably the best thing for the applicant, as well as, everybody involved, is have them submit, and then basically that application will get vetted. And you guys will make a ruling on, yes, it's a new application that's going this path, or we can't hear it for whatever reason it may be, or whatever it may be, or we can't hear this part, or whatever it may be. I'm not really 100% sure until we see the application and comment on it at that point. So
The stipulation agreement refers to a specific application. So if we accept a new application, I'm afraid stipulation agreement's void.
well, see, the issue there is because the original application was denied, any new application has to be substantially different, and there's basically a test. You know, there's basically sort of a roadmap that allows you to look at it, sort of say, okay, this is significantly different because of whatever the reason may be, you know, whatever the application may hold. And if that's the case, then it goes forward. If it doesn't meet that, then you're not obligated to hear it because it's already been denied. It's essentially the same application. I'm not sure, that'll be something until we get an application in front of us. Who knows what, you know, it will cross, which bridge gets crossed. I don't know until that comes in. So. And I think that the reality is, like I said, we're talking back and forth across each other, and I think it probably would have been better that. Well, never mind. That's going backwards. I think probably for their benefit. And everything is basically say that and whether the determination gets I'm not 100% sure if we would want to stay the determination, so that sort of hangs, or if we want to get rid of the determination, and basically the two ways of basically we need to uphold the appeal, not my determination, and basically, essentially tell the office to accept a new application, number 20 Morgan Road, for review. And they can submit their application, and you'll get staff notes and comments, from me, and it'll go to a public hearing. And if it has merit, it'll get reviewed and weighed. If it doesn't have merit, then there'll be reasons why it doesn't have merit. So we'll have to wait and see. I think that's probably the best path forward. I mean,
Okay. Right.
and I think that's probably the fairest thing for the applicant. I think, otherwise, I'm, fairly confident in the determination I made, but I see that if that gets that's upheld, then we're potentially in environmental court. The appeal of your determination, and it's that's a sort of a long, ugly process from history standpoint. And if it can be avoided, great.
So do we need to set a deadline for when the new application comes in? Or then
No. So I mean, if that's,
I don't want to make a decision right here, so.
Yeah.
I couldn't hear you.
I don't want to make a decision in this form. We will have a discussion among the board.
have a discussion amongst board, and we can inform them. Basically, they presented to us that they want to have a new application in front of you. And so I think that would probably be it has more benefits than downsides.
Okay,
But I said,
should we, any other questions from the board?
No.
Any public comment, questions? Anybody online have any input here?
it's only wrong, so.
I'm good. Thanks for asking.
Okay. Do you have anything else? Any final comments?
Just as a general information, we will take this opportunity Because when we were all working in May, June, July, and August, we were operating under certain rules and circumstances. And what we've been advised now is that S-100 went into effect and is a guiding document for all of us going forward from July of 2023. So we will take,
What is S-100 so you can inform the board? Because that's just a number in a letter to them.
okay. In effect, it's the pro-housing legislation that was passed, and it is relevant to us. It amended 24 VSA 4464 and all of the ones around it.
Right, but not our zoning regulations.
It didn't,
It's
it
a
amended
state-
the
it's a state-
statutes,
yes,
and in effect,
Statewide.
it does preempt some zoning procedures and some statutes, and therefore we want to just,
They can incorporate
Yeah.
all that in their narrative
Yes,
application
yes.
as part of their.
Yes.
their
yes,
sales.
so I just wanted to say to you that, oh, what are they doing now? All of a sudden, there's a new set of rules that we want to make sure that as we present
But by all means, include that in the
the
application.
new application,
Yes.
will include the select board's resolution, will include what's been sent down to us. And there are some market forces and some other things having to do with energy.
You can
and
include
stuff.
all of that.
And so it may take us 2 to 3 weeks to do that, but we are looking forward to it. And then I just want to give you a little bit of a commercial. This is an absolutely wonderful piece of property immediately adjacent to the high school. And it's been abundantly benefited by the fact it's proximate to the range. So that the range with the federal government funds has brought municipal water through to this project, which is highly unusual in a rural application.
That
It is-
water existed in 2016, so that's not a new water line.
It is a new water line to us. This project is now connected to the water line, number one. The connection to the water line combined with changes to the wastewater rules, combined to refinements on this particular property, significantly increases the capacity of this property to support bedrooms. So it's a major change that was taken advantage of by South Hill across the street, where they've built 9 houses with, I think, 4 bedrooms in a single septic system.
We saw that one. Okay,
Okay, and then last but not least, and most recent, is that Vermont Gas has been brought through. And so this project now has the benefit of municipal water, Vermont Gas, a direct pipeline to the poles that are on the property, and to material changes in the septic rules.
okay,
So it,
All right.
it does produce an opportunity for us to fulfill the missions that we were given.
okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you
Thank
for
you
your
very
time
much.
and allowing a path for us to move forward and not have, that I'd rather have involvement of this board instead of go the other route. So thank you for your consideration.
Okay,
Good night.
thanks.
Well, I forgot. Electric cars are a big deal. Thanks.
You got anything, Will?
Am I allowed to sit through the rules of procedure?
We read the rules of procedure.
You mean the deliberation?
Yeah,
No,
No,
you're not gonna have an open deliberation?
no.
Okay.
So you have the minutes to approve.
Yeah.
And then we'll close it.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of January 24th.
24th, yeah.
Got a second?
I will second that.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, who's not gonna?
I did.
No,
Well,
okay.
hmm.
So for.
Well, I like the rules better.
They're gonna stop.